hate thing. If you've kind of written them off because the last couple albums haven't been up your alley, but you used to really dig Meshuggah back in the day type of situation, then you will absolutely love The Violent Sleep of Reason. It's an incredible album. For me, Biv, and I know this isn't up your alley, and nor did you really listen to much of it or anything like that, but this is 9 out of 10 material for me, and arguably the best album they've done, if not really close to Chaosphere and really close to Destroy, Erase, Improve. I mean, it's that good as far as what they've done here, and absolute album to check out. And again, no denying their influence and what they've had on heavy metal, and just a killer album overall. If you love Meshuggah, you'll love the hell out of this.
All right, that was Fires in the North, the brand new and the only new single off of Fires in the North EP from Leaves' Eyes. Now, if you're going, Leaves' Eyes, why do I know that name? Well, the reason you know that name, maybe other than being familiar with their previous works, there was a kind of a big news story about, I don't know, earlier this year, really. I mean, February, March, April of this year, about a kind of a big, nasty breakup between the vocalist and the co-vocalist, Liv and Alex, who were the front man and front woman of the band Leaves' Eyes. And Liv was kind of told she didn't have a position anymore, basically. Now, that's one version of the story, but at any rate, they were a band that decided to part ways with their very well-known lead vocalist in Liv, a beautiful woman and a woman with a beautiful voice. And so there were many people who thought that would be very difficult to replace. And to some degree, I have to agree with them. Now, they have a new vocalist. Her name's Alina, and she also, as this EP shows, has an absolute gorgeous voice. Now, the problem with this EP is that this EP features one brand new song called Fires in the North, also the name of the EP. The second track is Fires in the North, the acoustic version. And then there's 3 remakes of songs off of an album that just came out a year ago. Almost like they wanted to erase the memory of Liv altogether. And so in listening to these tracks, now I have to admit, I am not and have not been a big Leaves' Eyes fan, but it's one of those you're not really interested until something big goes down, kind of like Jason, you and I had talked about, a couple weeks ago with Queensryche, right? Remember that conversation?
Yeah, now you want to know. Yeah, now you want to know which version's better.
Right. And so the same thing here. I was like, well, I didn't really even know who they were before, but now there's enough Jerry Springer element in the story for me to be interested, right?
Well, and it probably also is the band's way of saying, hey, look, this new girl is just as good, if not better than her. Check this out. That's what it sounds like to me.
And, I, knowing that you hadn't really, listened to them, I did have a conversation with Lacey Mucklow, friend of the show, and, just kind of comparing notes with her. And she and I both really had the same feeling on this, was that there's nothing wrong with doing that in terms of doing a remake with your new vocalist. I mean, many, many bands have done that in the past, right? But to do it the year after it comes out in its original format basically says one of two things. A, we never wanted to make it that way to begin with, right? We wanted to make it with the new lead singer, Alina, instead of Liv. Or B, that product's inferior. You don't want it. This is the product you want. And in either case, it's a slap in the face of Liv, and it's to her fans, right? And now you've alienated her fans that now would follow that group without her. But the other thing it does is that how likely are those same fans going to embrace the new lead singer in Alina?
Yeah.
And so
wow.
it's a now I've not been a fan, as stated earlier. And not because I didn't like them, but because, well, as you know, first of all, I have trouble with a female fronted metal band anyway. You know that about me. And I've told people about that, and I don't shy away from that. I'm not saying I don't ever become a fan of a female fronted metal band, but it is more difficult for me to get into them than it is a male fronted metal band. That being said, when this kind of whole story broke, and then when this new CD or new EP came out, I did listen to it. Now, because Edge of Steel, Sacred Vow, and Swords in the Rock, tracks 3, 4, and 5, the 3 remakes from the previous album, were essentially, I could lay them side by side with Liv's old versions, right? I could listen to them, and because I wasn't a fan of the old vocalist or the new, necessarily, I could be, I think, a pretty fair judge of who is the more talented vocalist. Is that fair to say?
No, I think so. Yeah, because, you're not in one camp or the other,
Right. I don't really care. But I will say this. In listening to the two of them, Liv is more upfront, more accessible. I know people may not like that term, but we've used it before on the show. But I will say that Alina is more operatic and certainly, in my opinion, a better talent.
Really?
Yeah, she's that good. And she's that beautiful. And that was one of the other parts about, when you have a beautiful lead vocalist like you had with Liv, and someone who could sing as well as Liv can sing, to replace her with both that beauty and that voice is extremely difficult to do.
Wow.
And I will say this, if Liv's Eyes, if that was their challenge, they succeeded on both levels.
Wow.
That being said, I have a problem with this EP on the level of it comes off as a money grab, and it comes off as isolating your old fan base, and it presents only one new song for people like me who, were kind of coming into this really wanting to hear something new. That being said, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. If I were to base it just on, if you don't know these guys, you don't know anything about them, and, you don't care about Liv, and you just want to hear 5 tracks, good tracks, for an EP, I would probably give it closer to an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10. But based on what I know about the background, what I know about the history, and repeating 3 of the same songs that just came out in 2015, I do have problems with that. I give it a 7 out of 10. It's for serious fans, of the band. Probably everyone else is going to shy away from it.
And you know what's funny about that is, to your point, now I want to hear the full album, like their next installment. Now I'm more intrigued. And I'm sure you are too.
Oh, I am. I'll listen to it, definitely, because now I want to hear how big of a creative process was Liv in that camp.
Correct. All right, well, there you go. Leaves Eyes. 7 out of 10 from Biv. That is Where the North Wind Blows. And of course, that is the unmistakable vocals of a man that I unapologetically have a metal man crush on. That is Johnny Gioeli singing on Hardline's most recent album, Human Nature, of course. Johnny, you also may know from ARP, Axel Brody Pell. You also may know him from Crush 40 if you're a video game fan. But Hardline was his first band that he formed with his brother Joe. Joey, I should say. Several in the early 90s, essentially, they released their first album, Double Eclipse. Had Neil Schon from Journey involved with the band. And it was just weird for them because, Hardline is, and Johnny, of course, just nails that melodic hard rock vocalist vibe. And, when Hardline comes out in the early 90s in the grunge era, Hardline wasn't a good fit. So they didn't, have nearly the amount of success I think a band they, 5 years prior would have had. But came back in 2012, released Danger Zone. Little more timid than I would have liked from Hardline, because especially maybe I'm just a little spoiled due to hearing Johnny sing with ARP and how great he is on the heavier stuff. And so here they are again, 2016, Human Nature, new album from Hardline. I have lots of thoughts and opinions. Why wouldn't I? Because I heart Johnny Gioeli. But first, Biv, what did you think of Hardline's newest one, man?
In listening to Hardline, whether it's this release or any other, it really makes you wonder what in the hell Americans were thinking post 1994.
Well, they were wearing flannels, dude, and listening to
and not bathing. Yeah, I know.
Smells Like Teen Spirit and Even Flow
like urine
and Weezer and Offspring and all that shit, right?
Veruca Salt and
Veruca Salt. Wow.
There's something I bet you never thought you'd hear on this show.
I never thought that would be mentioned on this show. Name two songs of theirs right now.
Seether.
Yeah, that's their main one.
And the Seether remix.
Yeah. I think they have a song called Volcano Girls.
They could have. Who knows?
Anyway, why the hell are we talking about frickin' Veruca Salt in a Hardline review? I blame you, Biv.
Well, and you can, and you should. But, the bottom line is that, over the last 20, 25 years in this country, we've been so force-fed by the musical powers that be that a truly talented band like Hardline, that while they came along in an era, as to your point, Jason, when grunge was hitting, and they were there a moment too late.
Yep.
And I could list bands after, just band after band after band in the U.S. that fits into that category. But with Hardline, at least they had the wherewithal, the veracity, the tenacity to stay after it and to continue to craft, their sound, and to not give up on their dream. And they did that over the years. And, Johnny, of course, as you have mentioned, has gone on to front now Axel Rudy Pell, one of my favorite bands, that, he does a phenomenal job there. But Hardline is a little bit different than Axel Rudy Pell. And then Hardline is more of a top 40, radio-friendly, hard rock, almost in the vein of Goddard.
Oh, absolutely.
Type of sound. Whereas ARP is more of you expect to hear them on Metal Express radio type of sound. Or on MTV Europe's Headbangers Ball, which is still in existence to this day. Unlike here, where we're just wretched. Have I mentioned the music scene here is wretched? Have I ever talked about that?
No, you should mention that again.
Okay, but at any rate, getting back to this CD kind of makes you scratch your head and go, why are these guys not in the forefront? But yet it also makes you scratch your head and go, why do these guys seem to be playing it so safe? It's kind of a dichotomy between the two, where you want more from them, but yet what they're bringing to the table is a successful formula all at the same time. So, when you look at songs like, Running on Empty and Take You Home and United We Stand, you think, man, these guys just got it going on. And then you hear other songs and you're just like, why is this so contrite? Why is this so safe? And it's hard as a fan of a genre of music like this because many albums fall into this trap. And I kind of felt